Shooting the Beekman episode felt challenging and fast and overwhelming. There were a couple of actors from out of town, a whole crew of people, a more complicated than usual set with lights, and a big, long plan of things to cover in a fairly short day. And we got it done. But afterwards, I really wanted a change of pace. So for the next episode, for the Undebunkable episode, I wanted to make sure it's a nice, calm, simple atmosphere. It was just me and my co-conspirator Emily. I was on camera, she was operating the camera, simple talking head episode. But the concept of the episode wasn't really worked out very well. It was originally just Captain D presenting a regular video and just getting a little more sarcastic and then getting disheveled and looking strange and just having some sort of psychotic episode until finally it all culminated in this pause, and then Captain D would just morph back to normal and deliver this righteous speech about how that way of thinking is silly. But Emily rightly pointed out that that just didn't feel finished. It didn't feel right. It's strange to see Captain D just not being trustworthy for no apparent reason. So maybe it's better to have this be not Captain Disillusion. Maybe it's an imposter. So then I got on this idea of Zeitgeist, and maybe we slowly reveal it's a different person, and in fact the real Captain D is trapped somewhere. Where is he trapped? Maybe he's inside the wall in like a sci-fi jail cell. The wall breaks and we see that it's him. If it's gonna break, then maybe throughout the video, as our understanding of what's happening has fallen apart, maybe the walls are crumbling as well, and maybe Zeitgeist is gradually transforming into his true form, and maybe at the end I could have the real Captain D and the fake Captain D face off. And so it quickly went from what was supposed to be a simple episode to one of the most complicated things I'd ever done. So in addition to all the debunking, I had to create a virtual set that was falling apart and use green screen photography, combine it with real photography, and to help with the realism of some of the shots, I wanted to get the camera free and just start doing these sweeping moves. I try to keep things simple, but I'm still learning how to do that. So post-production wise, the Undebunkable episode is actually much more complicated than the Beekman episode. Photography of this sci-fi jail cell set we made was combined with this detailed 3D model of the room rigged up to break slowly. The shoot had to be planned in a way where I could progressively change the makeup and the wardrobe, and because of that we needed to just quickly switch between green screen shots and regular room shots, so we used a smaller portable green screen that we could swing in and out as needed. And the most complex shot in the entire video is also, I think, the longest shot, the culmination of everything, where I get real dramatic and allude to 9/11 and the truthers movement. And it starts as a view from above, gradually lowers and kind of becomes a normal close-up. And during that, I hold a panel that has animation happening on it, and it has some 3D projections of the Twin Towers grow out of it. And the entire thing is happening in the augmented virtual set of the room being all broken up with holes in the walls. I figured out a way to mount the jib arm that we sometimes use for things onto the slider dolly, the rail dolly that we have. And that gave us a lot of degrees of freedom. We were able to get it right above me because it's being supported off to the side. And then we just kind of dollied back as we lowered the jib and tilted up into a close-up of me. But the problem was that, of course, the green screen, the tiny portable green screen, wasn't able to be behind me for most of that. So we knew it was going to require some major manual roto work. But first, I needed to recreate the motion of the camera as a 3D animation. I also needed to solve for the movement of the album in my hands, somehow extrapolate its motion from what the camera is showing us as it moves. With those two things established, I was able to replace the album by creating this animation that would happen on it that was timed to the shot, and then mapping that animated movie onto a 3D model, just a simple panel that was the right dimensions, rendering that scene with the camera motion. I then took the big virtual set that I was using throughout the episode and applied the camera motion to that as well, and rendered out this detailed multi-layered CGI image sequence that had different render passes so that I could tweak it in different ways to make it fit the real world photography better. I also used the combined camera track and album surface track to position the 3D model of the Twin Towers hologram and rendered that out as a separate animated element. So once I had all these elements together, it was time to composite. A major part of that was isolating me so that I could always be on top of things that I need to be on top of. This was such a lengthy shot and there was such complicated roto to be done that for the first time ever in the history of me making Captain D, I actually needed to outsource this task because the episode was late, but it would have been way more late if I had to do that process. So a nice company overseas got it done overnight for me. So what they delivered to me was a clean matte of me with the album and the Mr. Flare lamp, a separate pass of the shadows that we cast on the ground, and then a separate little pass of my fingertips so that I could matte them on top of the animated album. So I just kind of layered things and finessed them. I created a certain kind of treatment for the hologram, some color correction to make it feel like the lighting in the room changes throughout, added some fake depth of field changes. And once it was all kind of gelled together, I took one last pass of perfecting the camera's movement, stabilized it in certain parts, recomposed the shot in certain parts to make it cleaner and more dramatic and more impactful. And I really think it worked. I'm pretty proud of that effect and all of the effect shots. And of the episode as a whole, it did surprisingly well. I thought it was kind of too weird to be popular, but it's among my more popular videos, so I'm glad how it turned out. But I think I'm now genuinely due for a simple, classic Captain D sitting in a corner showing one video and talking smack about it episode. So look out for that soon, hopefully, unless I figure out a way to make it complicated again.